Thank you both for joining me today. We have Casey Fisher, the Director of Technology, with us, and Dr. Jennifer Kephart of the Washington School District. She's the superintendent. So thank you both for being here today and talking a little bit about AI and what you're doing in Washington to tackle such an enormous, I think, what's going to be an issue for education really from now moving forward. And so, Dr. Kephart, I'll start with you. You've obviously done some work with your school board to implement on the policy side and on kind of the philosophy and approach side of how your district's going to handle that. What did you do with your board to kind of get the ball rolling on thinking about how your district's going to handle AI?
Well, first of all, we appreciate you asking us some questions. You're absolutely right. We have just scratched the surface. So we know the work that we're doing in the School District of Washington just starts to mirror what's happening in much larger perspectives. And we also know that it's very fast moving. So as far as a policy is concerned, we have a policy committee in our district. We received the MSBA policy draft and shared that with our policy committee. That committee is made up of board members, of administrators, of teachers, and even teachers that would be on our teacher groups and our negotiation committees. So we appreciate that it's a wide range on that policy team. They reviewed the documents. We asked a few questions and reviewed those questions, reached out. Casey is not on the policy team. You'll get a chance to hear from him in a moment. However, reached out to Casey and our instructional team. So our instructional team would be our assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction and assessment, along with the coordinators and Casey as the director of technology. So went through really from our perspective, that review of policy, both policy and the administrative procedure, and then took that to our board and shared with our board. Our board has a chance to look at any policies. They have a chance to do a first read and a second read. They made the determination to pass it on a first read because they have been asking the questions of what policies or what procedures prior to the policy, what procedures do we have in place with AI, and are we on the cutting edge of conversations around the benefits of AI, but also those dangers of AI. And Casey has done a couple of interviews with our local newspaper regarding AI as well. So he certainly is a local guru in some of that work and being able to provide support to our teachers.
Well, and that's how we first heard of you. We saw the eMissourian article that featured both of you, and Casey was a big part of that as well. So Casey, the leadership team kind of got the foundation set and kind of handed it over to you. What was then your process from there?
Periodically throughout the year, teachers will ask us about what is our policy when it comes to AI. And before here recently, all I could tell them is that we were working on that we didn't really have anything concrete. So I did appreciate the fact that MSBA did get something out there that we could use, and something that we can kind of grow from and build from, as we navigate this this journey of AI. So I was glad they did that for us. And then I can just tell you, really what we've done this year is in a way try to get out ahead of it just a little bit, but we've just had lots of conversation. We offer periodically throughout the year, we have professional development days. And on those days, we've offered sessions on AI. I taught those myself, and basically we use those as a window to really just start informing teachers about AI. We found we had such a broad spectrum of knowledge even about AI. Some teachers had no idea what it was, some that use it all the time, and then a bunch of people in the middle. So we use that as a way to really just start educating our staff on what AI is, some of the goods, the bads, some of the resources that are available, some discussions maybe about how we'd like to see it used in our classrooms, talk about some of the limitations that AI has. And that's just kind of where we've started. Since this new plan is rolled out, we're in the process of developing an actual AI plan. That will be a more full-length document that staff can look at, and they'll know resources that are available to them. They'll know students as well. They'll know what they can and can't do with AI, those kind of things. But really, we're focusing on right now really the resources that we want to make available. There's so many out there right now that we're trying to narrow that down to the ones that we think will be the most productive and also the safest, especially for our students to use. You get in a lot of gray area with the 13 and under with the AI. There are very few out there that are currently protecting that group with their information. So that's been a big piece that we're looking at free resources versus paid for resources. What are the benefits of some of those paid for resources? And that's another conversation that comes up in AI, especially even with students using AI. Is there a difference in a student that only has access to free AI products versus a student that their parents are willing to pay for something more advanced for them to be able to use? So how do we navigate that? And so there's lots of moving pieces right now, and we're just having lots of conversation. And I'm really hoping by the start of next school year, though, that we have a pretty defined plan in place and definitely have our resources narrowed down by that time. So to kind of see what we can do in this next school year.
So I know you're working on a use plan, and that probably means that really a lot of classroom implementation hasn't really taken place yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's definitely safe to say that. Yeah.
What's the faculty's response been though to a lot of this training? Because I think a lot of folks just react to this topic differently.
Yeah, it's mixed. I think I've seen stat they get excited about the side of AI that benefits them as an educator. Things that maybe lessen some of their workloads, allows them to create content, those kind of things. I see a lot of wide eyes when they see some of the things that they can do with that. I think there's still a lot of fear and questions and concerns about where do we draw the line for students? How much can they use AI, and how do we know if they've used AI? That questions came up quite a bit, talking about AI checkers and things like that. Is that something that we have to have or need to be able to use? And but there's a lot of new information coming out about those as well, even from the college levels, and a lot of people are changing their policies on what they've done with that as well. So just trying to stay current on all that information and trying to figure out how it applies to our staff and our students. And we want them to be safe, but we want them, we don't want to shut the door on this because we feel like there's lots of windows to be productive. And the creativity piece in AI is so broad. We just want to make sure that we utilize that the best we can.
So I could kind of steer this question to Dr. Kephart. It was funny because we talked about that eMissourian article, and in that article it cited a statistic from 2023 that said that 20% of teenagers have heard of ChatGPT. There was an article that came out yesterday that said that 19 out of 20 are now familiar with generative AI, and 69% of college-bound students are now using ChatGPT. So you kind of see that growth just in 1 year, and you can just project that forward. So tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are and just how important this topic is when it comes to preparing students for their futures.
Well, and that's exactly what I was just going to jump in to say. This year, we kicked off what we call Connect Washington. And Connect Washington is our opportunity to ensure our students have a chance to experience what we're calling their workforce passion and interest in our community prior to graduation. So that's similar to some of Kansas City's work with real world learning, but that's starting to completely move across the state with some of the training and conversations with the Success Ready Student Network and other training. So around our Connect Washington work has been a full implementation and focus on essential skills. So we have written 10 essential skills. Those 10 essential skills are stair-stepped from pre-K through 12th grade. And one of the skills talks about digital citizenship. But if you think about the implementation of AI, that incorporates for our essential skills incorporate several of those because it is about critically thinking. It is about utilizing the digital citizenship, digital uses in the correct ways. So there is a part that we believe is our responsibility to teach students the right ways to use generative AI versus those ways that could be harmful, much like the conversations many years ago and still about plagiarism. So how can we teach students in those ways that support their learning, and what career development could look like in the future, how they could or may be using different types of AI and give them those opportunities to problem solve and to critically think with those tools.
Well, and you mentioned the Success Ready Student Network, and that's competency-based learning. That's the group that's working on that. And AI can play such a part in that too, as far as students learning and teachers doing more individualized lessons plans, because you can do so much of that with AI. And so maybe this is a question for both of you, but if you kind of put on or get out your crystal ball or put on your tinfoil hat, maybe in this case, what do you think education could look like in 5 to 10 years when it comes to AI and how that's implemented?
It's this balance between dipping our toes into it, finding the ways that we can be successful, protecting our students and staff from it as well, but also seeing the negative side of it. So how can we recognize the negative side? And then what do we do to help students, staff, parents be able to look in the correct direction for AI? So my hope is, as we continue to look at a landscape that provides additional opportunities for students, whether that be in our district, opportunities for career development, for interventions of skill gaps, whether that's academic, behavior, well-being, in all of the work that we are doing as a district, how does AI support that and really help drive innovation for us in the classroom, but also for our students?
Well, that's fantastic. And what you both keep mentioning too, that sometimes gets lost in this conversation, is we talk about AI and this amazing technology, but there's still the human component to this. We're the ones that are putting in the prompts. We're the ones that are also training it and feeding it, but we're the ones that have to realize you can't rely on it to do all the work. There is this human component to it. And the example we always use is AI is a tool, just like a hammer. It can be used for multiple different things. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. But ultimately, AI is what we make it. And so I think that keeping that kind of mentality when implementing it into a school district is so important, and that teachers don't feel threatened by it, and that students know that there are ways to use it.
We talk about relationships and engagement. And if you boil down the success of a classroom with the teacher, with the student, culture and climate in a building, culture and climate as a district, that focus on relationships and engagement. And you're absolutely correct. AI isn't going to change that. It could foster deeper relationships. It could bring about more engagement, but the human aspect between our teachers and our students, between our schools and our parents and our community, that's not getting lost in AI. It's just, our hope is that it's being able to enhance it, and we can make sure that the negative side we can notice, recognize, and enhance versus what could happen.
So Casey, this might be a question for you. What's been kind of one of the biggest challenges you've faced maybe in these past few months when dealing with AI and kind of rolling it out to staff and faculty?
I would say the biggest challenge probably has just been we get asked frequently, what do we do with these kids that are using AI? And then, what are the consequences? What are the guidelines? What are the rules? And until this point, we really didn't have guidelines for that. So it was just really suggestive ideas as to how we can handle those situations. But the biggest thing I've tried to get in front of our teachers is this actually came from a graphic that I saw at a training, and it's just it was a green light, yellow light, red light philosophy with AI, and it's It's just teachers having conversations with their students about AI and knowing that we've reached a point now when I'm a teacher and I give students an assignment that I have to have a conversation with them about how AI incorporates with this assignment. And in that graphic, it talks about the green light being this assignment is green light, wide open. If you want to use AI, go for it. I encourage you to use AI on this assignment. The yellow light is more of the it's okay if you use AI, but I want you to run that by me, and I want it to be your work with some assistance from AI. And then there's the red light assignments that are absolutely not. This is a zero AI assignment. You have to do this on your own, kind of a thing. And so, trying to get teachers to understand that, because we still had a lot of teachers, I think, that didn't even understand that kids were using this in their classrooms already. It was happening, whether they knew it or not. So just trying to open some of the eyes, and we still have a lot more of that to do. There's still a lot of staff that still needs some more guidance through some of these steps. So I would say that's probably been the biggest challenge, because that's the thing that comes to me most often. I've had some specific examples come across, and what am I supposed to do with this, kind of a thing, because they didn't have an answer, and we didn't really have an answer to give them. So. But we're getting there for that part. So I'm excited about that we can help them answer some of those questions when they arise, because they'll continue to come up.
Can I jump in there too and just add, I think with teachers as well, it's teachers knowing their own students and knowing that when a writing comes in and it doesn't sound like the student that turned in something last week, then that's a different conversation. So how do we ensure that our teachers know their students well enough to know what is theirs? And I know that walks a very fine line in some cases, because AI can be that good, but we want our teachers to know their kids that well. And we also want them to provide opportunities that we can know what skills students are mastering versus information being taken in and being generated through AI and sent back out as a final product. That might not be learning the content. That might be making the assignment, finishing and completing the assignment. So what's the difference between completing an assignment and mastering a skill? So that goes back to relationships and engagement. And how do we know that a student has actually learned the material versus I was taught the material and I finished the assignment?
It just sounds like you guys have set up a great foundation. So who knows, maybe we can chat again in a few months and see how it's going. So
absolutely. Happy to.
Well, you guys have been outstanding. Thanks so much for doing this today.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking us.